I need another story, something to get off my chest. My life gets kinda boring. Need something that I can confess. Till all my sleeves are stained red from all the truth that I've said. Come by it honestly, I swear. Thought you saw me wink, no, I've been on the brink. So tell me what you want to hear, something that'll light those ears. So sick of all the insincere, I'm gonna give all my secrets away. This time, you're hanging here with red and white. The podcast is going live. I'm gonna give all my secrets away. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Wyatt Brower.
And I'm Rhett Brower.
And you are with the Brower Brothers. It's good to see you. We love you all. What are we doing today, Rhett?
We've got another movie, believe it or not.
That's right. On this section of the podcast, we discuss movies.
We talk about the movie, then we come up with a sequel to the movie, and then we write a scene of the sequel we wrote of the movie we're spoofing.
Like such as
this.
We've done several episodes like this already. We hope that you guys enjoyed this one as well. This movie is very close to our hearts.
Yep, today we're going to be talking about Disney's 2010 classic, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, starring One Republic.
It's very prevalent in the movie. This movie stars Nicolas Cage and Jay Baruchel in a wacky, wizarding world of wonder.
They're going to give all their secrets away on this one.
I'm going to admit I went overboard with Jumper. So we're going to try things a little different from here on out. There's a few more sections that we haven't covered and a few of the other ones. But in order to make this a fun and speedy process for everyone, we're going to jump right in to Sorcerer's Apprentice. We are in the Dark Ages. The sensual voice of Nicolas Cage gives us a brief history of his life and the events that are about to go down. Merlin, the famous wizard and companion of King Arthur, is ambushed by an evil witch known as Morgana Le Fay. Aided by a dirty little helper known as Horvath, played by Alfred Molina, the two menaces attack the wizard and his companions, Balthazar, Nicolas Cage, and Veronica. Merlin perishes at the hand of Morgana, and in order to prevent the witch from performing a ritual known as the Rising, which would raise the dead and allow the witch to enslave the world, Veronica must inhale Morgana's life force. Bringing the witch into herself and soul bonding with her, the only way to preserve her life was through a little nesting doll known as the Grimhold. Trapping Veronica and the witch in the doll, Balthazar kneels over a dying Merlin. Before the wizard passes away, he says a prophecy that only his heir, the Prime Merlinian, will be capable of defeating Morgana. So for the next 1,000 years, Balthazar walks the earth, searching for this heir. And one fateful day, he finds him.
Good action sequences.
Magic is top-notch.
Yeah. It's pretty solid so far.
No notes.
No notes. On a 4th grade field trip, David Stutler draws the coolest King Kong illustration on the window of the bus, allowing it to line up perfectly with the Empire State Building.
It's so boss.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because the bad guy, one of the bad guys, later in the movie, the guy who plays like the apprentice to the evil villain, he plays King Kong.
That is him.
The new King Kong movie.
Oh my God, I knew I recognized him.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't recognize him as an ape, but I knew that he was involved in the King Kong
he also
movies.
he's like a big motion capture guy.
His name was Koba. I killed him.
Yeah.
He played Koba, too.
He played Koba in the Planet of the Apes, the boss-ass Planet of the Apes
How
movies.
about that?
Yeah.
Neat.
I mean, he didn't at this. They didn't. This was like it was like an Easter egg that didn't even happen yet. It like developed into an Easter egg.
It predicted the future.
Yeah. This sort of creativity seems to win the affection of his crush, Becky Barnes. But before he can seal the deal old school style with a check yes or no note, the wind blows his riz to the wind and eventually into a very strange store.
Following the note completely unattended and sure to cause a school board meeting of some sort when they get home, David enters the strange store, which seems to be filled with odd antiques. Due to the ideas of fate and coincidence and to dot his I's and cross his T's, Balthazar retrieves Merlin's ring, which he keeps in case any Merlinian candidates come in. And to his astonishment, the ring, which is a dragon, mind you, latches onto David's finger and allows him to perform basic magic spells. In a stroke of misfortune, David winds up finding the nesting doll, known as the Grimhold, and opening it up, allowing the evil Horvath to escape.
He's got a lot of dangerous stuff laying out in the store.
No kidding. Like, David walks right in, and the first thing he touches could have held him in prison for 10 years.
Yeah, trapped him for 10 years.
And also, is David the first person to ever enter this store? Because he was like, oh, you know, I just happened to stumble in. And Nicolas Cage was like, you're the guy. And, like, put on the ring and was
well,
like...
Well, yeah, maybe because it didn't just get blown by the wind. I mean, it was like it went through, like... It didn't just get blown by the wind. It went through, like, this whole thing and, like, went through the letter thing and everything. Like, it was definitely magical.
Yeah, but his whole thing was, like, it was just a coincidence. And then he did that and then left him unattended in the store. Full of lethal magical items.
He's got all these like booby traps and all this dangerous stuff, but he keeps the Enchantis, which he describes as a textbook that everybody gets, locked away in a hidden compartment at the bottom of the basement stairs.
Which is also weird because the Enchantis can also turn into the pocket size edition, which is small. So he could have had that anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier to get to the Grimhold than the Enchantis.
Caught in the middle of a wizard battle, Dave attempts to escape the store in one piece as Balthazar and Horvath duke it out. Eventually, Balthazar gives Dave the nesting doll and imprisons himself and Horvath in the urn, which is said to have a 10-year minimum sentence. Dave bursts out of the building, throws the doll in the street, and is intercepted by his entire class. He is traumatized, freaking out and crying, begging them not to go in the building. Oh yeah, and his pants aren't wet, but... and his pants are wet, but it's not pee.
It is so not pee.
Dave is brushed away by the teacher and forced into a life of shame.
Yeah, what happened to Dave Stutler? As a kid watching this movie, I was like, oh, this is natural progression of the character. Watching it again, it's horribly sad.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is made a mockery by the entire city.
Yeah, his friend, everyone thought he peed his pants, and his best friend was like, "Don't come by my house. We're done."
We're done.
It's the same kid from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, his best friend.
He got the cheese touch, and that guy did.
But yeah, he a glass bottle broke on his lap, and it looked like he peed his pants, and everybody's like,
"Pissy pants."
Thought he was peed his pants.
Peeing your pants is the coolest.
Yeah, he didn't have Billy Madison there to help him.
10 years later, Dave, now played by a true king known as Jay Baruchel, is a total nerd. Still living in New York City, he attends NYU and is a physics whiz. His reputation was ruined in 4th grade, but after therapy, he was able to put the pieces of his life back together. In a class that he is teaching as an undergraduate for some reason, he is reintroduced to Becky Barnes, his 4th grade crush, played by Teresa Palmer. Ooh la la. But despite that being awesome for him, tragedy strikes when the wizards are released from the urn. So
yeah, he's only like 21 in the movie.
Yeah, it's 10 years after 4th grade, so he's like 20 or 21 years old.
I guess, well, if you're 11 and 4th grade, you're kind of old. So
oh, 19.
Yeah.
I was 9 in 4th grade.
Yeah.
He's 19 or 20, but he's teaching a lecture class about physics. And also, I just want to point
101.
I want to point out that Becky Barnes has some weird social issues because he stumbles upon her and was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm Dave. I was in 4th grade together with you." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, you're the kid that like peed his pants." Like brings up the most traumatic experience of his life. And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, after therapy, I've like gotten better." And then she was like, "Oh, yeah." That was weird of you. Like, like that was not the best small talk.
Sure you
answer.
have, idiot.
I'm sure you needed it. Like, it was just not a cool thing to say. But it got him so hot for her.
Yeah. Also, the idea of like, they were like a little like he was like an actual classmate. It's not like this was a one-time incident at the thing, because she, like he passed.
She had a crush on him.
Yeah, she had a crush on him, and like I guess that instantly dissipated when he peed his pants.
That's the kind of thing that does it.
Fair, because she was like, oh, I don't remember you as anything other than pissy pants.
There was a girl that I thought was attractive, and then I heard that she pooped her pants in high school, and I was like, you're no longer attractive.
That is true. That's how that works.
Oh, yeah. So he lives in this apartment, right? He has a 2-bedroom apartment, which also may or may not come with a subterranean Tesla coil lair in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And he can afford that somehow. But his roommate is a weird dude. The actor is like someone that plays a small part in like every movie from the years 2005 to 2013.
Yeah, I recognize that guy from a lot of movies.
And they build up his character and like his mantra as if it's going to be a reoccurring thing, and then it never comes back. Like he's like a real alpha bro. Like he's not like he's like, oh,
it's like before that was a thing. Though.
Yeah, he's like, oh, have you ever heard of the gray wolf?
He literally he talked about packs and stuff.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't even think about that. All I could focus on was that his dresser was in the kitchen next to the table. He came out of his room, sat down at the kitchen table, and then turned around and opened a dresser and pulled his socks out.
What disarray.
Yeah.
What horrible direction.
Horvath gets out first and hunts Dave down, attacking him and chasing him onto train tracks. Just before he's about to be murdered by the warlock, however, he is rescued by Balthazar, riding atop one of the metal gargoyle birds from the Chrysler building. Balthazar forces Dave into a quest, revealing the meaning of being the Prime Merlinian.
It's a very important.
Let's just say that
title.
again. Prime Merlinian.
At first, David is skeptical, but after fighting another wizard and an epic Chinese dragon, he develops a sense of wonder and curiosity about his supposed destiny. But despite Balthazar explaining the gravity of the prophecy and the power of Morgana, Dave is incapable of casting anything other than low-level spells. And to make matters worse for his new master, he is highly distracted by the prospect of dating Becky Barnes. So he has a showdown. They have a showdown with Horvath. They're able to track the Grimhold to Chinatown. Horvath is also able to track the Grimhold, but in a different way.
Yeah.
He goes back.
Balthazar is able to like conjure a storm above the Grimhold.
Why didn't Horvath just look for that? But also, so Horvath goes back to where the store was, and like he relives the moment. And he sees an Asian woman pick up the doll. And he just goes, Chinatown.
I got it.
Racist, albeit correct. It was in Chinatown. So they go to Chinatown, they fight this dragon. They fight Horvath and another wizard who is able to create a dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And they defeat the dragon with fire.
That was also a weird choice.
After the dragon was breathing fire, he shoots one fireball and destroys the dragon entirely.
Lights the dragon on fire. But I think that was more because he lit he hit the dragon and lit the dragon on fire.
Yeah, and then like the guy's like dragon belt, which he was controlling the dragon with,
was like a
sparked
voodoo doll for a dragon.
Yeah. Don't just keep it simple. Don't think outside the box. Fire kills everything.
Yeah, fire does.
Why do you think the dragon's using it?
Yeah. Setting up awesome Tesla coil dates in his lair, using his powers to brutalize muggers, and being smoother than one would expect, his romantic pursuits are only enhanced by his magic. The inverse, however, is far from the truth. Balthazar reveals the dangers of love and tells his tale about how he and Veronica, the one who is possessed by Morgana, are lovers. He lost the one he loved to magic, and Dave could too. Also, Horvath is in love with Veronica, which is why he turned to the dark side. Love triangle.
It's a spicy one. Horvath was initially another apprentice of Merlin. Merlin had 3 apprentices. It was Balthazar, Veronica, and Horvath. And I thought he had a fair reaction. Veronica chose Nicolas Cage, and he's like, I'm going to kill the world.
Yeah, he's like, oh, fuck this.
And for 1,000 years, his mission has stayed strong. He's still going to do it.
I don't blame him. If that happened to me, I'd be like, you're magical too, so you get everything you want. It's just like, fuck this. Destroy the world. Let's start over.
Horvath continues losing fight after fight and decides to find an apprentice of his own. Employing a Chris Angel type guy, the bad wizards, or Morganians as they're called, due to Morgana Le Fay, attack Dave in his school. But Balthazar saves David by trapping Horvath in the mirror dimension. Once they escape, Balthazar lectures David, hammering home the problems associated with love and magic. Horvath and his apprentice, however, are able to track down Dave's anonymous laboratory by Jedi mind-tricking a school official into releasing his files. Within the subterranean Tesla coil layer, they strong-arm David into giving up the Grimhold. There is an awesome car chase, and they're able to explore the mirror dimension even further, but the good guys eventually lose their targets after Horvath uses a mirage to toy with Balthazar's heart.
Yeah, he was at the school because he was just hanging around with Teresa Palmer, which I can't blame him for that.
No one could.
But that's how Horvath and his buddy Chris Angel are able to, like, track him down and beat him up in the bathroom. And then Nick Cage throws Horvath into the mirror of the bathroom.
Horvath's apprentice was my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
He was the coolest one. He was like a practical application of what these magical people would be doing today, because he was like a David Blaine.
He was really famous. Like, everywhere they went, people would be taking pictures with him and
Shinlim,
stuff.
Penn and Teller type of guy. But
Shinlim actually is magical.
I know, or all of them are.
All of them are,
But he used his magic for that, and Horvath was like, this is what a Morganian is nowadays, and
he was very old-timey.
He was very traditional, and he very much liked the title of master. He really used that as a ego boost throughout his time.
They come for the Grimhold, and they have this cool car chase. And do you know the car in the movie is actually Nick Cage's personal car?
No way.
Yeah, they were looking for a cool car, and
The old one?
Yeah, the Rolls Royce. Nick Cage is like, I got one, and he offered it for the movie. Apparently, he had quite the heavy hand in the production of this movie as well. Like, it was kind of like
bad. He didn't do bad.
Yeah, but that was his car, so that's kind of cool. It's a really cool car that drives in the. But he turns it into like a Dodge Viper or something when they're in the mirror dimension.
Mm-hmm. So it's fast.
So it's real fast. I'd rather have his personal car. I think that's why he talks about the car so much in the movie, because then later,
that's my car.
That's my car. He hears it and he's like, that's mine. And Balthazar wasn't saying that's my car. It was Nick Cage saying that.
Yeah, he broke character. It was an ad lib. He thought they had cut.
The heroes seem to have lost. The Grimhold gone, the villains on the loose, and the impending return of the world's evilest witch. Balthazar is bummed, but it is David who refuses to give up hope, and the sorcerer and his apprentice charge forth to locate their adversaries. But a nasty surprise is there waiting for them.
Horvath has learned a new spell that allows a caster to steal another wizard or witch's power. Using this leech incantation on his own apprentice, he steals his ring and tosses him to the curb. He then opens the Grimhold and releases Abigail Smith, a young witch who was responsible for the Salem trials of the 1600s. Sending the girl forth to kidnap Becky Barnes, more pieces of the plan are coming together. There's only one more loose end. Using the leech spell once more, he steals Abigail's pentagram necklace, discarding her as well. Collecting the power sources of other wizards and witches only increases Horvath's might. And when Balthazar and Dave come to town, he is more than ready.
It's kind of a horrifying scene when he kills the little girl. Like, they
Is
don't
he
show
killing
it.
them?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, that's why they're not around anymore.
He just kills them?
Yes.
I thought it was like, remember, you know Rogue from X-Men, how she can, well, I guess she kills people, doesn't she, if she holds on too long.
She kills normal people.
Yeah, and there's no reassuring scene to be like, these people are still alive. They're gone after he does that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary for a Disney movie. Nicolas Cage heavily involved. Kill the girl.
Balthazar quickly falls into a Persian quick rug and is trapped as Dave faces Horvath on his own. However, there is no combat between the two, because standing in between them as a human shield for Horvath is none other than Becky. Confused and in shock, she is the perfect leverage for Horvath to retake the Grimhold as well as David's ring, the Merlin ring.
The Persian quick rug was really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Running into the night, Horvath takes to Central Park to begin the Rising, releasing Morgana into the world for the first time in a millennium. Balthazar insists that he go alone, because, he's a hero. After all, Dave is ringless, thus unable to cast any magic. So jumping off of the building and landing on a trusty eagle, he flies to fight Horvath.
Teresa Palmer's character is surprisingly just understanding of magic.
Yeah.
She's just like, whatever.
She's just like, oh, cool. I don't know.
She might be a dullard. She like...
I want to, work at a radio station.
Yeah.
I like CDs.
He tells her that he's a sorcerer, and she's like, oh, I thought it was interesting that my last boyfriend had a scarf. And it's like, what?
Oh my God, you're just like my ex-boyfriend. He's so quirky too.
She didn't say it like that, but it's just like,
oh my God.
And then she wanted to, we're going to get to it, but she's really the one who saves the day. She does more than Jay Baruchel did.
Jay Baruchel is just present.
He is the prime Merlinian.
The prime Merlinian.
Dave, however, is not going down without a fight. Gathering a Tesla coil from his lair, he drives Balthazar's boss car in the direction of the park. But before he and Becky get there, the spell has begun, and pulsations of energy, only seen by wizards, are shot into the city sky, bouncing off select satellites on the top of skyscrapers. Although Becky has a crippling fear of heights, Dave begs for her to climb to the top of a building and move a satellite to disrupt the ritual. Yeah.
Yeah. And she'd do it. Horvath, with his new powers, makes easy work of Balthazar, awakening the Wall Street Bull and turning his old friend into a makeshift matador. And just as Horvath decides to execute Balthazar, in comes Dave, driving his master's car, the hood of which strapped with a Tesla coil. Firing a lightning bolt from the coil and striking the conductor of a staff in Horvath's hand, the evil wizard loses his casting ability before being thrown out of shot by Balthazar. And that's pretty much the end of Horvath.
Yeah, this was the only thing that wasn't super... I think they were setting up a sequel because Horvath just dips. He leaves his hat, which was an important character piece.
Indiana Jones would never, ever do that.
Yeah, no. Horvath, he's just never seen again. He gets... Balthazar hits him with a force push, and he spins through the air.
Oh, that really hurt.
And I guess he just decides, I'm out of here. Fuck this. The ritual is nearly complete, and evil sorcerers are awakening from the dead all around the world. However, Becky atop a building pushes a satellite and destroys the pentagram in the sky, causing the spirits to return to their resting places. In a flash, Balthazar grabs Veronica, his flame, and sucks Morgana out of her face. It is an act of heroism, and soon he falls. However, he is not in possession of the witch for long, as she escapes through his orifices, materializing in a cloud of malevolence and casting a wave of flames to be rid of the pests that seek to destroy her. Veronica is not fast enough. Balthazar is not fast enough. It seems the fire will kill them all.
Veronica's not fast enough. Balthazar's not fast enough.
It really creeped me out when he kisses her when she's presumed dead. Balthazar.
I've missed you.
Yeah, and then they both kiss each other's dead body. It's really weird. I think that might just be like the base, base human in me, to not touch things that are dead, like the id in me. Is that what the id is?
I don't know.
No, because the id is doing bad things, but like the caveman in me, because he picked her up and started sucking Morgana out of her and then kisses her as it's happening, and it just really...
It was bizarre.
It creeped me out.
Also, he must be so much less powerful than her because he holds on to Morgana for around 2 seconds. And I know she was in the Grimhold, but she held on to Morgana for 1,000 years. And then Morgana was just like, this is my body now, and was using her as a host. She rejected Balthazar instantly and left and became a cloud of person. Also, on that same vein, Balthazar jumps in front of the blast, right? He gets knocked out by Morgana.
Basically.
Veronica doesn't do shit. She just sits there.
She casts 0 spells.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything. Does she not have a ring? She must have a ring because she was put into the Grimhold casting magic. She could have fucking stepped in. I mean, she might be a little rusty, but Dave only knows Plasma Bolt. That's the only spell he knows.
Yeah, and Skyrim lesser ward
That too, yeah.
to block magic.
Instead, she sits next to Nicolas Cage and is just like, I'm done. I guess maybe it's the same thing.
Well, you heard what Meg Ryan said about Nicolas Cage. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
That's from a different movie that we will surely cover in the
City
future.
of Angels.
Stepping forward, no ring in sight. Dave blocks the flame, proving once and for all that he is the prime Merlinian. Apparently, up until this point, it was all just Balthazar's hunch. Dave takes on Morgana, and Balthazar takes a magical bullet for him, hero. And although Dave is the prime Merlinian, he is significantly less capable than his opponent. But like Bill Nye, Dave is a science guy. Awakening some wires in a nearby shed, they slither up light poles, and when he needs it most, they turn into impromptu Tesla coils, firing bolts of lightning into the witch. She's stunned and weak, and using the only spell he truly knows, Plasma Bolt, Dave turns himself into a 50 cal rifle and shreds the bitch. She has exploded, and the world is finally safe.
Yeah, that's the only other spell he knows is the one from Fantasia, where you awaken the brooms to clean stuff.
Yep.
So he awakened the wires to conduct electricity, and he shocks her with the full electrical power of New York City. He blacks out the city.
Yeah, just completely messes her up.
Yeah, but yeah, so that is one important scene that it doesn't really serve that much to the story. It was just kind of showing that David is learning magic when he does the Fantasia spell and awakens the brooms.
It was just a fun little scene.
Yeah, it was just a fun little scene because this whole movie is like a callback to Fantasia and like part of the Fantasia series, I guess. Like, I guess this whole idea, apparently the third, like, I don't know if it was a movie series. I don't know what it was really, but like the third story of the Fantasia story is called The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
This is a fun way to use intellectual property.
I think so.
Instead of doing reboot after reboot, why don't they just put more Jay Baruchel in things?
I would be a fan of that.
Jay Baruchel is the Lion King. I just can't wait to be king.
Balthazar is dying. So using his plasma bolt, Dave resuscitates him, finally waking him up. He and Veronica begin kissing and Dave feels awkward, so he dips. Laying on the ground on the street is the bowler hat of Horvath, leading us to believe that he is still out there waiting to wreak more havoc.
Becky arrives, and after some brief small talk, Dave finally kisses her. The moment is made perfect by the passionate sounds of One Republic. And after climbing aboard the Chrysler Eagle, Dave and Becky ride off into the sunset. The end?
Secrets by One Republic played in this movie at least 3 times.
Twice by the actual band, once by Tesla coils.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have only one note about that. I wish it played more.
I wish it played more.
I wish it was in it more.
Apparently, there's a version of their music video for that song that has, I don't know if it has the actors from this movie in it, but they have, or like it's like scenes of this movie, but it's like it's the part of this movie is in their the music video for the song Secrets.
Was this song made for the movie?
I don't know,
because that's maybe it's because of the movie and the nostalgia, but that's my favorite One Republic song.
Yeah.
I won't.
I can't even name another one right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, One Republic is not the Fray. They do not own movies. But
no, they had a moment here. They were
did.
given a shot, and they
shot.
delivered.
They did deliver. That's how you know. That's how you know you have a good movie is if the movie has a theme song.
Mm-hmm. All right, Rhett, do you have any more saucy facts about the film? Any fun facts? Or should we jump right in to the review section? You've
Yes.
heard our opinions. We want to hear yours.
Oh, yeah, one other thing that I'm glad did not happen. One of the people that auditioned for the role of Becky was Brie Larson, who I just do not think I'm a fan of.
Well, it wouldn't have been as fun.
No, I guess it's not that I'm not a fan of hers. I think she did a good job in The Spectacular Now, and I think she was great.
Was she in The Spectacular Now?
Yeah, she was the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I thought it was Shailene Woodley.
That's the main. That's the main person. But then she's also
Shout out Miles Teller.
yes, Miles Teller is my celebrity
Marry
crush.
me, Miles. Marry me, Miles Teller.
Marry me, Miles Teller. I don't know. I just like Teresa Palmer a lot more. I know that when I was like in middle school and early high school, our friends, we were all in love with Teresa Palmer from this movie and the best movie ever made, Take Me Home Tonight, starring
Yes.
Dan Fogler and
Yes. Topher Grace.
Topher Grace
And Teresa Palmer.
and Teresa Palmer. That was that's like my favorite movie of all time.
That's such a good one that I don't think we should write a sequel for it.
No, perfect movie. Doesn't need a sequel.
It will be called Take Me Home Today, and it'll follow the date.
I'm home.
I'm home.
But yeah, I think something we've done for all the other movies we've recorded, but didn't. Well, all the other movies we've done, but
We've researched.
yeah, we've gotten reviews specifically from the most candid and trustworthy review platform, Google Reviews. And I have some reviews for you today, Wyatt.
AMC's slogan should actually go to Google Reviews because they make movies better.
Yeah.
Going and reading what people have to say.
All right. This review comes from Marcel Docteau. I think this movie is great. Trophy emoji. Movie. It is really amazing. Period. I love. Period. I love that Dave is the hero. Period. I think that is so cool. Period. I like how they use the scene from Fantasia. Period. Where Mickey uses magic to clean up. Period. Instead of doing it himself. Period. I think that part was really funny.
What was his name again?
Marcel Docteau.
Thank you, Marcel.
Here's another review from Hannah Gongnem. Not a kid movie, but someone who likes sci-fi and motivational movies that show is it. Geeky movie for a geeky person. Plus, who doesn't love Hiccup on Toothless character? Question mark.
A fair question, Hannah. A fair question.
This one's from Shiva Honor Deddy. Rotten movie. Literally waste of time. A big waste of CGI. Plot, screenplay, acting, action sequences, everything failed at peaks. Don't go with positive reviews. You will repent for your decision to watch. Balthazar. Only thing you will remember after watching this movie. Boring stuff. Waste of words to explain.
Jesus, Shiva.
Shiva went off.
And what a weird thing to say. A waste of CGI. What does that even mean?
I don't know. Alfred Molina looks like he's having more fun as a villain than in the decidedly melodramatic Spider-Man 2. The list of cons is short. David Stutler, our resident geek hero, barely participates in most of the action.
True.
That honor instead goes to Balthazar Blake, who steals the show to the point you find it hard to believe Dave is really supposed to be the most powerful sorcerer on Earth. Once again, it's clear a continuation was being arranged for, and the crew cut corners while taking a sequel for granted. Monica Bellucci is mostly useless, and that's been the case for nearly forever.
Who the hell is Monica Bellucci?
She plays Veronica. I don't know why he goes
Since ever.
He goes, oh, Monica Bellucci is mostly useless, but that's been the case for nearly forever.
Monica, what's her name?
Monica Bellucci.
Monica, if you're listening, we're sorry on his behalf. What the heck? Since ever.
Here's a review from Eric Rasmussen. Very good. Love Nicolas Cage. Plot was strange, but magic is weird anywho. Started to cry why Ball died. Dance when he lived.
Yes.
Yes. Here's another one. Haven't seen this movie, but it has Monica Bellucci in it, so it gets 5 stars.
All right, Monica's been redeemed.
Yeah. Here's one from Balan Sudlanan. Yeah, I can't remember this. I'm searching for another thing, and this showed up in an autofill, so it kind of annoyed me.
No matter what, it doesn't matter what the movie is, there are people that leave reviews
who didn't watch it,
but still feel
as if their opinion matters on the movie.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people that sleep through movies and then give them bad reviews.
Dude, Google reviews are the best. You will find the best reviews for movies on Google reviews. These are just the funniest ones. I just like to find the funny ones.
I'm watching this movie, man. I fell asleep. 0 stars. It's called like The Godfather.
Yeah, that's the
really
type of reviews
bad.
people leave. Another thing, that's why I put the texting thing, is because people always talk about texting through the movie. I didn't really get it. I was texting through the movie. I was talking during the movie.
If you can't spell it out for me when I'm trying to get nudes, I'm not gonna watch it.
Another thing is, how do you have to look up the movie and then you have to manually go leave a review. So these people, it's not like somebody's asking them as they're walking out of the theater, hey, what'd you think of the movie?
It's not a man on the street.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, I didn't really like it. It's
I didn't come here to see this one.
Yeah, they had to like look up the movie and then go find the leave a review and then leave a review. We personally love The Sorcerer's Apprentice, one of my favorite movies. There is some campy bits. There is some flaws to the movie, but I don't really. I like movies like that.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah, we ripped on our last few movies, but those are some of my favorite movies. I watch them all the time.
Not so much League of Extraordinary
Not
Gentlemen.
so much that one. That one is
was long.
that one is quite a bad movie. But we have a sequel for you guys today. Of course, that's what we do.
It's not that big of a deal, guys.
It's not that big of a deal.
Enough talk about The Sorcerer's Apprentice, guys. Come on. It's time to dive in to our sequel, The Sorcerer's Apprentice 2, Curse of the Ante-Merlinian.
Everything is looking up for David Stutler. He saved his best friend, defeated a millennium-defining wicked witch, and finally had the courage to kiss Becky Barnes. Other than his namesake being attached to mental breakdowns by rancid school children, he pretty much has it all. Due to his superior intellect, he was able to finish his graduate program, earning a master's in physics from NYU at just 21 years old. Free from the restraints of college, the Prime Merlinian can focus all of his time on the arcane arts. Well, most of it.
After resurrecting his sweetheart from the clutches of Morgana Le Fay and seeing her for the first time in 1,000 years, Balthazar has been a little distracted when it comes to training his apprentice. Where it was once Balthazar pestering Dave to stay focused, the dynamic has now been flipped on its head, and the two, though in romantic love with each other, have been bickering a lot of late. Thankfully, however, it appears as though the magical pair will have the opportunity to spend some time apart from one another, so as not to ruin their awesome relationship.
After Morgana's attack on New York, Balthazar and Veronica finally got married. It was a wonderful affair with all sorts of magic. One Republic actually played at the ceremony. Dave was the best man and he cried, but despite the glamour of the ceremony, the two have yet to go on their honeymoon. Packing their bags, they plan to head to the place that they met, the ruins of Camelot.
And in the spirit of summer and celebration, Dave and Becky decide to go on a trip of their own. Spending 3 weeks in Europe, part of Becky's family vacation, the Prime Merlinian packs his bag and flies across the ocean. And in order to prevent any weirdness from happening on the trip, where he will have to make a good impression with Becky's parents, he decides to leave his ring, his incantus, and even his old man shoes in order to ensure that everything will go smoothly. No magic is to occur on this trip except romantic magic between the two lovers.
However, there is another whose plans do not align with David Stutler's. After the battle for New York and the subsequent defeat of his master, Horvath skipped town and returned to the old world, a region he is much more comfortable and familiar. With his plans foiled, his crush now married, and his own apprentice dead by his own hand, Horvath is directionless and alone. He loathes Balthazar for locating the Prime Merlinian and for showboating Veronica in his face. He even received an invitation to their wedding in the magical mail. Dick move. Their insolence will not go unpunished, and thinking of David Stutler, Horvath is struck with a bolt of enlightenment.
For 1,000 years ago, when Merlin's prophecy was written, he declared that the Prime Merlinian would rise up and defeat Morgana Le Fay once and for all. However, there was also a portion of the prophecy that Balthazar conveniently left out. For after the Prime Merlinian displays their glory on the battlefield, they must face their greatest adversary yet, the Ante-Merlinian. Spawn of Morgana herself and the heir to her abilities, this person will rise from the ashes and destroy Merlin's descendant, snuffing out the bloodline once and for all and leading the world into an eon of woe. So, clicking his heels and sporting a new bowler hat, Balthazar begins his search for the Ante-Merlinian, but not before sending out a magical message and putting a bounty on the head of David Stutler.
As far as assassinations go, Dave is making no time with killing himself. As soon as he and Becky land in Paris, the starting point of the family vacation, he winds up embarrassing himself and his girlfriend. Making an offhand joke and falling down the stairs, he is not off to a great start, and his new father-in-law lets him know with his disapproving glare and his early dismissal of the evening. David is beyond apologetic, and in order to clear his head, takes a walk through the streets of Paris all by his lonesome. Becky would rather sleep.
Dave walks alone, Looking at all the couples kissing and holding hands as he makes his way through the city of love, it's a real bummer, and he is pretty sure that he's going to blow it with his new girlfriend before anything exciting even has a chance to begin. So, after a few blocks, he decides to make his way back to the hotel, but not before he sees a young child staring at him from the alley. "David," it says before running out of sight. Confused and alarmed, David follows the child down a dark alley, following the shadow that it casts on the wall. Suddenly, turning a corner, he sees that the child is gone. Officially spooked, Dave turns to walk away but is stopped by an invisible force. Stumbling back a few steps, Dave holds his forehead, wincing.
Standing in front of him is a mime, who pretends as if there is a wall in front of him. Dave shakes his head and tries to walk away, but suddenly his arm is snagged. Turning around, Dave sees a mime reeling him in with an imaginary fishing rod. And to his astonishment, it's working. It is then that Dave sees the ring on the mime's finger. This is a sorcerer.
Dave quickly attempts to break away, but the mime is very powerful. "What do you want?" Dave cries. The mime stops reeling and pulls a sheet of paper from his pocket. Unfolding it, he reveals a wanted poster with Dave's face on it, accompanied with the words Prime Merlinian. The mime then waves his hand in front of the picture, causing X's to appear on David's eyes and his tongue to stick out of his mouth. "Oh, I get it," David says as the mime ignites the paper, causing it to go up in flames.
The battle begins and it mostly entails Dave running. However, he is soon surrounded by a platoon of different mimes, each one using different magical abilities. They make wall after wall and cast lasso after lasso. Dave throws his hands up and tries to cast a spell, but nothing comes out. If David had his ring, he could possibly defeat them easily, but even though the Prime Merlinian doesn't need his ring to cast spells, he is going through a bout of performance anxiety. As Austin Powers would say, he has lost his mojo, and is incapable of fighting these men off with his powers. He is helpless, tied in a web of invisible mime ropes. It is then he realizes how to defeat these sorcerers, even without his own magic.
Dave begins talking to the mimes, singling one out and giving them a compliment. I like your striped shirt," Dave says to the mime. The mime smiles and gives him a thumbs up. "Where'd you get it?" Dave asks, taking the mime off guard. "I got these sets to get." "Oh no!" the mime bellows as they turn to dust. Dave is able to get nearly all the mimes to talk, even as they become overcome with fear as their friends perish beside them. After the first one, he was able to incite an argument amongst the mimes, which effectively eliminated the rest of them, leaving David free to go. By the time he returns to the apartment, it is nearly sunrise, and when he enters Becky's room, she feels betrayed. Not only was he out all night, but he also reeks of cigarettes and cheap makeup. Dave promised that he wouldn't make this trip weird and he wouldn't use any magic, so in order to avoid a fight, he doesn't tell Becky about where he was all night. So as far as she knows, there is no bounty on David, and he wasn't attacked by mimes last night. And as far as logical conclusions go, he would have been better off telling her, because now he seems like a total dick that went out all night on the first night of her family vacation. Across the English Channel, Horvath has returned to his homeland and the home of Morgana Le Fay. Standing before the ruins of a Gothic castle in the Welsh countryside, a storm cloud brews in the sky. Using his perfect recollection ability, Horvath dives into the history of the castle and its creators. Morgana Le Fay was the mistress of a king known as Uriel, and the two gave birth to a son known as Iwain. Iwain was a good friend of King Arthur, thus an ally of Merlin. However, after his mother's attack and apparent death, Uriel rebelled against the rule of Arthur, his son Iwain following suit. The two led the charge of many bloody battles before eventually being captured and burned at the stake. There are no records of a child, but Horvath needs no books, nor historians. Using his powers, he sees there was a girl, a farm girl, who birthed the child of Iwain's, continuing the bloodline after the disgraced knight's death. Following the lineage for 1,000 years, Horvath knows where he can find his anti-Merlinian. The family vacation has made its way to Venice, Italy, and Dave is on his best behavior. But his head is on a swivel, with no way of knowing who is and isn't a magical assassin out to get him, and with no way of telling Becky without ruining the vacation. Dave is on high alert. And just before a family boat tour, Dave ruins his reputation even further with the family by sitting the adventure out, stating that he has a huge stomach problem on account of the escargot they had in Paris. He needs to find a bathroom ASAP. Although this isn't the truth, the lie makes Dave seem gross, and after a few awkward exchanges, he leaves the family to find a secluded area. Becky is very upset by this and feels abandoned by David again. Dave finds a bathroom and sits in a stall. Locking the door behind him, he thinks of a spell in his incantus involving astral projecting. Clearing his mind and thinking very hard, he strains his fists and pushes with all his might. But it doesn't work. Performance anxiety again. Letting out a sigh, Dave stands up and makes his way to the door. But before he opens it, he decides to give it one more shot, turning back only to see himself staring back at him. Well, not staring. He's slumped, eyes closed and reclined against the toilet. Dave was in the ether, exactly where he wanted to be.
Balthazar does not carry a cell phone, so the only way to communicate with him is via magic. Calling out to Balthazar, he is initially met with nothing but echoes. However, soon his master appears. Dave apologizes for interrupting the honeymoon, but tells Balthazar that he was attacked last night and that there is a magical bounty on his head.
Balthazar, officially scared for his apprentice, tells Dave that he needs to get on the next flight home. Without his ring or his incantus, or his master for that matter, Dave is the opposite of safe and needs to separate himself from any form of danger. And seemingly proving Balthazar's point, in come the specters of 3 demonic-looking sorcerers.
Ghost battle. The fight quickly leaves the bathroom, and Dave and Balthazar find themselves gliding through the streets of Venice, attempting to evade their attacker. Balthazar recognizes all 3 of them and calls them out by name, and even engages in some playful banter as they battle. They make their way into the living room of an old woman. As they hurl fireballs after lightning blast after acid attack in the spirit realm, nothing can be seen by the lady, who quietly hums as she knits.
Who knew Venice had an Elm Street? If you die in the spirit realm, you die for real. Something David finds out quickly after one of Balthazar's blasts hits an assassin right in the face. Turning into a pile of steaming dust, the man evaporates before their very eyes. As he dies, the old woman looks up and sniffs, repulsed. She blames the smell on a small dog nearby. The dog shivers and hides as it growls at the unseen wizards battling beside them.
Balthazar and Dave run once again, their spirits flying to the river below. As they dive, Dave plugs his nose and they land on either side of the Venetian boat tour. It just so happens to be the one that Becky and her family are on. As he rises from the water, David sees Becky, who is incredibly melancholy. Her father tries to cheer her up, but she seems incredibly let down. And as David looks to his girlfriend, feeling guilty, he is nearly incinerated by the final attacker. After a few back and forths, Balthazar defeats the man, but nearly is hit in the process.
Dave was utterly useless during the fight and cast exactly 0 spells. The performance anxiety was still going incredibly strong. Balthazar is happy that his apprentice was unharmed and promises that he will see him soon. And after their farewells, Balthazar simply disappears. However, Dave seems to have a little trouble. He strains and attempts to wake himself up, but to no avail.
Rushing back to his own body in the bathroom, he sees a custodian as well as 2 Italian police officers. The custodian speaks in Italian but makes a booze bottle gesture with his hand, referring to Dave's unconscious body. The cops grab Dave by his arms and legs and begin carrying him out. Within the ether, Dave shouts to let him go and that he is right here and not drunk, but nothing works.
Oh no,
Dave says as he wakes up in an Italian jail cell.
Walking out of the jail, Dave is the most uncomfortable that he has ever been, as is Becky, who is absolutely speechless. Dave begins to apologize, but is shut down by Becky, who scolds him for ruining the trip for her. If this is how he acts on the first trip they go on together, and during his first interactions with her family, Becky's afraid that maybe things aren't going to work out with Dave. And although he promised that he wouldn't use magic, Dave decides to come clean. But even through his honesty, it all seems like a lie. Bounty hunters, magic mimes. Becky is speechless yet again and says that maybe it's best that David doesn't come with them to Athens, the final destination of the trip. Heartbroken, Dave leaves.
Becky lands in Athens, and once in the privacy of her own room begins to break down. That is until a familiar voice interrupts her sobs. Cane in hand, hat on fleek, Horvath grins at Becky, using the Alohomora spell to lock the door, and trapping her within. Saying that he has a surprise for her, as well as her little boyfriend, he seizes her and escapes into the night.
Dave is in the airport, about to board a plane home, when he sees a magazine with One Republic on the front page. These men are responsible in part for he and Becky's love. And in that moment, he decides to change his destination from New York City to Athens, Greece.
Horvath has Becky chained to a rock face, their location unknown. She begs him to let her go, that David isn't coming. Horvath chuckles and tells her that David is not the only one he is after, that she is. He has been looking for her all along, pulling an old grimoire with a skull on it from his man purse. Horvath begins to recite a spell. Although it is in another language, it is clearly agonizing as Becky begins to writhe around within her shackles, and her eyes glow a horrifying crimson.
When Dave arrives in Athens, what is waiting there for him is perhaps more heartbreaking than anything he could have ever imagined. For upon his arrival in Greece, Becky's family is frightened. She's been missing for hours and nobody can find her. They all assume that Dave is somehow responsible for this. And some part of him believes that he is.
They're like your weird boyfriend. They think he murdered her. Finally, after a brief search, he is able to locate Becky at the top of Mount Olympus, widely considered the birthplace of magic, where Zeus himself blessed humanity with the arcane arts. It is only fitting Horvath believes that here is where magic should come to an end.
Dave has no idea what he's talking about, and when he sees Becky, he nearly loses it. However, it's not the Becky that he knows. Her eyes are weird, red, and evil, and there's something very wrong. Horvath laughs and laughs, unable to contain himself. He gloats as he asks Dave if he truly thought that Becky was in love with him. After all, why would a girl like her ever be interested in someone like him? The connection, the convenient magnetism, it wasn't love or affection. It was fate. They're not meant to spend their lives together. They're meant to end them. For Becky is the anti-Merlinian. Dun dun dun!
It is a devastating blow. Dave is beyond heartbroken, and though he bellows that Horvath is a liar, the look in Becky's eyes sings only the truth. It was as if he were looking at a monster, her skin freakish pale, her hair matted and tangled with a crimson glow beaming from her lifeless eyes. Although he doesn't want to hurt the woman he loves, Dave is forced to act when she charges at him, plasma bolts in hand.
It's less of a fight and more of an evasion as Becky chases Dave about the mountaintop. Dave, still unable to cast, wouldn't want to if he was capable of it. But if he didn't figure something out soon, he would surely die. Tripping over a jagged stone in the mountain, Dave falls to the earth, the wind forcefully removed from his lungs. He wheezes and Becky stands over top of him like a Terminator. Horvath laughs and says farewell to the Prime Merlinian. But before Becky can strike him down with one final blast, she's knocked off her feet.
Balthazar has returned, and he flies on his good old-fashioned Chrysler Eagle. Leaping from its metallic back, he and his wife, Veronica, are ready for action. But despite this clear invasion, Horvath is the opposite of angry. He is actually happy that they have arrived. He welcomes them to their first couples party. Dave has a girlfriend who is actively trying to kill him. Balthazar and Veronica are a couple, and Horvath brought a date as well. She's from the area. Right on cue, slithering out of a cave in the side of the mountain is a hideous gorgon. Her skin is a slimy, scaly green, her hair made of snakes, and her eyes are able to turn man to stone. This is the one, the only, Medusa.
Balthazar and Veronica jump behind a rock, diverting their gaze. Horvath bids them all adieu and climbs on the back of a Pegasus. It was just hanging out up there when he got there. Pretty cool. And just like that, Horvath flies off. Veronica tells Balthazar to go after him. Balthazar is conflicted. Should he leave the woman he loves and the son he never had to face off against history's most malevolent figures? Or should he go wail on the loser that has a crush on his girl? It's a conundrum. Finally, Balthazar leaps from the peak of the mountain and lands on Chris, the eagle, and takes off after Horvath.
Meanwhile, Dave continues to struggle to take on Becky. She is still a robo-killing machine, stopping at nothing to end Dave's life. His words are powerless and his powers are non-existent. But looking over his shoulder, he sees a town at the bottom of the mountain. The light glows from within homes, and something about it gives Dave an idea. Turning and running towards the house, Dave begins to fall down the side of the mountain. Smashing and rolling and cascading, he is a one-man avalanche. Becky walks like Darth Vader after him.
Veronica is all alone on the hill. There's a silence in the air. As she hides behind a rock, all she can hear is the ominous rattle of Medusa's tail. It's a difficult battle, and Veronica, though powerful, must avoid a face-to-face interaction, lest she will turn to stone. Medusa strikes, leaping from around the corner and attempting to turn her to stone, but Veronica is too quick. Closing her eyes and firing a warning shot, her plasma bolt knocks the head off of two of Medusa's snakes, singeing her head. Medusa recoils and disappears into the shadow. That was a close call. And to make matters worse, it begins to rain.
Riding through the storm clouds, Balthazar chases Horvath. It is an epic chase scene, and the two fire magic blasts at one another, illuminating the dark sky. Finally, just as Balthazar is about to catch Horvath, a blast of lightning strikes Chris, the eagle. The metal bird shrieks in pain and falls out of the sky. Thankfully, Balthazar is able to leap far enough to grab Horvath's leg, holding on as the Pegasus continues its flight. Horvath laughs at Balthazar, saying that Veronica might have chosen Balthazar, but fate chose him. The world will bow to the anti-Merlinian and in turn bow to Horvath.
Balthazar shakes his head. Horvath still doesn't get it. Morgana Le Fay was never going to reward Horvath. The witch wanted world domination. Horvath was just the first of many underlings to bow, who would be ruled over like the rest. And now, awakening Morgana's spirit within her descendant, he has just created the same exact scenario. You can't replace love with hate. And seeing that there is no other option, Balthazar grabs Horvath and with all of his might pulls him off of the horse. Falling through the thunderclad sky, Horvath screams in terror as Balthazar closes his eyes, accepting what is about to come.
Meanwhile, with his clothes covered in mud and some fresh fall-related scars, Dave makes it into the town, the mountain folk quickly beginning to scatter as the anti-Merlinian begins to float through the streets, in lethal pursuit of her ex-boyfriend. Dave peeks through the windows, desperately looking for something until, bingo. Dave attempts to open the door of a house, but it is locked. Finally, boom!
Dave fires a blast into the door, ripping a massive hole in the side of the house. His powers are back. Mojo acquired. Unfortunately, the owners of the house are right inside. "You could have knocked, man," they say, halfway through cooking dinner. Dave gives an awkward apology as he steals something from their kitchen table, running back outside.
Meanwhile, Veronica is struggling, Medusa is missing, and the sorceress sneaks around, looking for any sign of her. Finally, she sees a shadow cast on the wall. Coming around the corner prepared to attack, Veronica sees that it is not Medusa, but the statue of a child, looking up in terror for all eternity. Shocked and caught off guard, Veronica is unable to defend against the monstrous tail swing of the Gorgon, sending her smashing into the side of the mountain. Trying to catch her breath, she knows that the Gorgon will surely kill her. However, looking just behind Medusa, she sees something. The rain has formed a puddle, and the reflection of the Gorgon can be seen within it. So, with a last-ditch effort, Veronica closes her eyes and tackles the Gorgon off of her metaphorical feet, she's a snake person, and tackles her into the water.
Becky, with the voice of a demon speaking into a microphone, declares that the Prime Merlinian show himself. And after a moment, he does. Standing in the town's main street, the two face off as if they were in a western. There's a tense standoff, and just as the clock strikes midnight, they both draw, sending shot after shot at one another. However, in classic David fashion, all of his shots miss, striking nearby street lamps. Becky, however, is a sharpshooter, and one of her blasts knocks David right off his feet, burning a hole in his hoodie and scorching his chest.
Becky chuckles as she approaches, preparing to kill the man she once loved. But suddenly, as she raises her hands, they are caught. The street lamps have come to life and are holding the anti-Merlinian back. Restraining her hands, Dave smiles. Got you. Pulling a remote from his pocket, he presses play, the music begins, and it is loud. Secrets by One Republic emanates from every speaker in the town. Dave stands, and as Becky writhes as if she was in an exorcism, he gives a speech. He doesn't care about any prophecy or about what Horvath thinks. He knows he loves Becky, and he always has. It's a sappy scene, and he discusses the importance of love.
As David speaks, we see flashes of Balthazar and Veronica. After tackling the Gorgon into the puddle, the two enter the mirror dimension. And to Veronica's surprise, within this world, Medusa is no vile beast, but instead the most beautiful woman she has ever seen. Medusa looks at her own hands, the feet that have replaced her tail, and feels the hair that was once snakes. She begins to cry, overwhelmed with emotion. Veronica puts a sympathetic hand on her shoulder.
Balthazar continues falling through the sky, finally breaking through the clouds to see what lies beneath them. Grabbing Horvath's hand, he casts a spell that brings a cloud to catch them. In the fall, Horvath dropped his staff. As the wizards land on the cloud, Horvath is without a power source and thus defeated. The two lay on the cloud, silent, looking up at the world above.
Dave finishes his speech, and just as he does so, the rain stops, causing the light of the moon to shine through the clouds, illuminating Becky. She looks to the ground, her wet hair covering her face. There is silence. However, after a moment, she looks up. The eyes that meet David's are a beautiful blue, no longer a scary red. Becky is back! Secrets by One Republic plays once more, and the light posts let go of Becky's arms. They kiss in the rain. It's awesome.
In the days following the Battle of Mount Olympus, Balthazar decides to punish Horvath for his crimes against humanity. But instead of putting him to death or imprisoning him for a millennium, he has another idea in mind. Horvath was once a great friend and an even better wizard. He was simply cursed with knowledge. So using a spell to wipe his brain, Horvath is a clean slate and now the perfect ally for the Sorcerer crew. The only problem is he seems to be developing the hots for Becky, who practices her newfound magic abilities under the instruction of her new master, Veronica.
Dave has won the affections of the Barnes family after a lengthy amount of explaining. And despite initial hesitance, he really sealed the deal after he proposed to Becky in an awesome fashion. No magic, no stunts, just the two of them together. Nailed it.
And what of the prophecy? Who cares? Merlin has been dead for 1,000 years. It's time for the world to decide their own destiny. And David's is with Becky. The end. Scene.
Yeah, so this was so usually the way that we do this is we watch the movie and then I go and write the sequel and then we do the whole recording. But when we were recording the initial introduction of the movie and Rhett mentioned the prime meridian, the prime meridian and the anti-meridian, I realized that I had to start over. So
Yeah.
this is
Because the prime meridian is obviously some play on the prime meridian, which is about like the 0, 0 coordinates on longitude and latitude. And along with the prime meridian, there's also something called the anti-meridian. And I didn't even continue reading the Wikipedia page because after we heard that, we're like, fuck, we got to write a new sequel that involves the anti-meridian.
the prime and anti-meridian.
Yeah.
A dyad in the Force. And here's our scene.
Interior, the ether, day. Dave, in astral form, looks around at his foggy surroundings. The world around him is identical to that of the one that he lives in, except for the lack of color and a thick layer of fog coating the grounds.
Whoa.
He looks down at his own unconscious body on the toilet. His mouth is agape and he looks the opposite of dignified. Dave looks off into the distance.
Okay. Balthazar?
His voice echoes through the ether. There is no response.
Balthazar? Balthazar?
Suddenly, Balthazar appears from the fog. He is entirely naked.
Hello, Dave.
Dave recoils and covers his eyes.
Oh, come on, man. Could you maybe put on some pants or anything? I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave sighs.
Look, I'm sorry for interrupting your honeymoon, but things are going poorly over here. What's wrong, my apprentice? Pretty sure Becky's dad can't stand me. And to make matters worse, I was attacked by Morganians last night. Apparently there's a bounty on my head. Morganians? I thought they were extinct with the death of Morgana Le Fay. Well, I thought so too, but these guys are weird. They were in Paris and... Oh, don't tell me. Were they mimes? How did you know that? The Pinstripe Mafia's owned Paris for hundreds of years, Dave. Posing as street performers, those nasty mimes actually run a pretty heinous sex trafficking and dogfighting ring. Due to their vows of silence, you can hear everything. Oh well. I feel a little less bad about gruesomely murdering them. Well, Dave, if the Pinstripe Mafia's after you, there's no telling who else might be in pursuit.
Balthazar lets out a sigh. There is something on his mind.
Dave, there's something very important I have to talk to you about. Me too, Balthazar. I think I'm having performance anxiety. Performance anxiety? You know, I can't cast my spells. Oh, that's nothing to worry about, Dave. 1 in 5 wizards struggles with the same thing. But Dave, there's something I haven't told you. It's about your destiny.
Suddenly, the sound of whispers can be heard, causing Balthazar to stop in his tracks. The sounds quickly grow and grow until the ether is filled with a hellish roar.
What is that? Oh no. Tell me you cloaked yourself, Dave, before you came here to the ether. Cloak? Cloak? What cloak? There's a cloak? Oh, jeez. We've got company. So, we actually got Nick Cage on the show today, guys, and we wanted to talk about his performance as Balthazar Blake. So, welcome Nick Cage to the show. Hey guys, Nick Cage. So Nick, could you tell us a little bit about your method and how you perform all your characters? Well, you know, that's a funny question, guys. tend to start off things really quiet, and then I like to raise my voice, and then I whisper again. And see, I took Balthazar Blake, and, he's a wizard from the Middle Ages, and I thought, what if I was a wizard from the Middle Ages? So I just played myself. You see, there's a movie that came out in the late 90s called City of Angels, where I was given the script and they were like, you're playing an angel. And I was like, no, the angel's playing me. I'm playing myself. Nick Cage is an angel. So it's pretty similar method. I take real life experiences, my method, and then I make it Nick Cage. And so we're here together making a film. We're making art together.
Nick Cage, everyone, the star of Dead by Daylight.
Thank you. You're going to see a lot of me, and then none of me for a while, and then a lot more of me again. You're going to wish you didn't ask for it. That's how much I'm going to be back. I did the same thing when I played Dracula, you see. What if Dracula was Nick Cage? They almost had me for Superman. They almost had me for Aragorn. Hey, hobbits, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to get you to Mordor. Ringwraiths, they're here. I'm a Coppola.